Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Cairo is one of the most beautiful cities in the world, and it has so many attractions. Perhaps some of them are known to world visitors or global visitors, but some other parts are not very well known. In order to talk more about Cairo, its beautiful places, the most important destinations that you can walk through in the old streets of Cairo, we're very much delighted to have with us today Femini Akesha, tour guide and heritage researcher. Always a pleasure having you with us, Femini. Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you very much too.
Now, Femini, in your own opinion, how would you describe Cairo as a tourist destination? Many people come to visit Cairo just to go to the pyramids or to the museum,
Yes.
but Cairo has so much more to offer. So how do you see that?
It's true, like the general tourist would come and spend like 2 days, maybe 3 days in Cairo. They will go to the pyramids and Saqqara, and then 1 day in the city of Cairo. Mainly they would visit the museum and the citadel, Old Cairo, and the bazaar area. But there are lots of things to visit in Cairo. It's actually, the city itself is like a museum on its own. If you walk in the streets and you walk in any area, there is lots of gems that you can discover. It's an open museum.
Yes. So speaking of open museum, what are the places that you would describe as an open museum?
Especially the streets of older parts in Cairo. You can walk in any area. Most people know, and it's very famous, طبعا Mu'izz Street. But if you go in Khalifa, if you go in Saliba Street, if you go in Al-Hattaba, if you even walk in the old cemetery area, the Mamluk Desert as it's known, and the Basatin area, you discover lots of beautiful old buildings, old mosques, and it's really like fantastic. Especially in the time of the COVID and in the time of isolation, I did lots of walks.
Let's talk about that.
Yes.
Yes. Was the lockdown period a chance for many people to rediscover the places that were deserted?
Yes,
for some time?
very true. I mean, for me in particular, I used that time in many different ways. I did lots of walks because everybody was like afraid to go out, so the streets were actually empty. So it was really very nice to have long walks. I walked in the neighborhood of Heliopolis. I walked in Zamalek. I walked in Old Cairo. I walked in the cemetery areas and in around the older parts of Cairo. So
what attracted your attention the most? Was it the unique architectural style that varied from one place to another? Was it the old buildings?
The old buildings, the streets, there is beauty around us in every corner. And every street in Cairo, especially the older parts of Cairo, the older areas, there is beauty. So if you look carefully, you will see that the buildings are very nice, the architectural style, beautiful windows, beautiful doors, beautiful streets and alleys. But people just walk by and they don't see this. And unfortunately, a lot of people are unaware that these are, you know, gems. And lots of people, they think, it's an old house, let's put it down. And it's really like, it's a pity.
Yes.
And you see abroad how they use these houses and how they maintain it. Even if they change everything inside, but from the outside part, they have to maintain it and they have to keep it. It's our heritage.
Yes. So because you are a heritage researcher, I think it's very important for us to raise awareness when it comes to preserving our heritage. And what caught my attention is that many young people nowadays, many youth, they do appreciate the beauty around us, as you mentioned.
Definitely.
I find 18, 19, 20-year-olds walking by in the streets of Heliopolis and Korba or in Zamalek, very much stunned and amazed by every single detail, like the windows, the motifs in the building itself, every detail, and they really appreciate that.
Very true. There are lots of also tours now. You can even look on the net. There is lots of tours organized by various groups. And these tours are now encouraging a lot of young people and a lot of people who normally would not have had any interest in heritage or in our Islamic heritage or even the Jewish heritage or the Coptic heritage. And a lot of people are participating now in these tours. And there are even tours to go and look in buildings that have been, for instance, films have been filmed in these buildings. So very specialized tours all over Cairo.
Yes. Also, many places and areas are undergoing renovation now, and there has been a very ambitious plan by the government to renovate all the old buildings in Cairo.
Especially in the Cairo, Qahira al-Khidawiyya. Yes, this is mainly now they're doing lots of restorations. One of the really very nice things that all the shops now have to break all the different colors, and they all have to have one theme, one plain color with the name tag written on the shops. So it really looks very different now in the center of Cairo, old Cairo. But also, unfortunately, in lots of areas, especially the Basatin cemeteries and the Mamluk Desert, because of the renovations and widening the roads and building the bridges, they are going really, there is a risk of, pulling down a lot of the old, beautiful cemeteries of very important people. So we are hoping that they will reconsider this.
Femini, in your own opinion, how can having more museums help in attracting more visitors, especially that now the museums are not just there to display monuments, but actually to display the heritage and civilization? We have just seen the inauguration of the Egyptian Museum, the National Museum of Heritage, Civilization. I'm sorry, and this was actually a very important event. We have seen the mummies parade and how that was the first step towards the inauguration of the museum. And the museum does not only display monuments as we are used to, but actually it displays multiple factors of the Egyptian civilization from various parts of the country: the Bedouin, the Upper Egyptian, the costumes, everything.
It displays really a lot of different aspects, like you said, of our heritage. So it's the culture of the people,
Exactly.
So this is what it displays, and it gives the visitor an idea about the different, timeline of the Egyptian heritage. So from really pre-dynastic into modern Egypt.
So this gives the visitors a complete different vision of
It does give a wholesome vision
of
what Egypt has to offer.
Yes.
So you take a tour of 3 hours and you get quite a good idea of what you expect to see in Egypt.
What are the places that need more attention now, that we need to actually focus on?
There are lots of places.
Yes.
There are lots. Like I said, Cairo is a gem in itself, especially the old area. I would like to see the Saliba Street and the Khalifa area turn into Mu'izz Street, or the same, famous, or well-known
Mosque.
Yes, and around Ibn Tulun Mosque. There's lots of, and there are lots of tours.
Beit el-Kiritliya also.
Beit el-Kiritliya,
Gar Anderson Museum is located
the whole
there.
area is full of spots and beautiful things to see. I would like to see the Mamluk Desert really being properly used, because there are lots of mosques there. There are lots of tombs from 14th, 15th century. even from famous people, from Omar Makram to Ahmed Shawqi to lots of very famous people. So I would like to see this area also well utilized and properly preserved, mainly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, in your opinion, how can we encourage the visitors of Cairo to spend more in order to discover all what you have just mentioned? Because you said that normally the visitors come for a couple of days, 2 days, like visit the pyramids, the citadel, the Baron Palace, all these famous, the museum, the Egyptian museum, but in downtown. But now Cairo has so much more to offer.
Well,
So you need minimum 1 week.
you need minimum. I mean, normally, like when people ask me, I first try and know what's their interest. So I always advise them: you really need to spend minimum a week in Cairo, if at most 5 days in Cairo, to be able to get a grip and an idea of what it has to offer. And then, of course, mainly people also want to go to Luxor and Aswan. But also there is like the oasis, and there is people who can visit the oasis and the Western Desert. People can go to Siwa, and then you've got Sinai, and you can go to Sharm and Dahab and St. Catherine. So there is a lot to see in Egypt. So when people ask me, I normally tell them you can spend a month in Egypt at least, and you would
never get enough.
No,
you would never get enough.
True.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much, Femina Akesha, tour guide and heritage researcher. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of this edition of Women's World. I'm Hana Al-Hamalawi. Many thanks for joining us.
هنا في جنة على أرضنا وجالنا العالم قال هنا مكاننا من بداية الحياة من كل البلاد بلدنا فيها حجر بينطق تاريخنا ونلي شادي يعيش جوا روحنا هنا بداية الحياة.